Hey everybody, welcome to Otto's Retirement Corner. So I've been getting a lot of questions both in my comment section, in my email, and texts from friends and relatives, and person to person from people, all asking pretty much the same question, which is now that Trump's in office and he's starting to do some things, what should I do with my portfolio? And the questions are sometimes more specific. I'm being told stocks will do great. Should I be buying? I'm being told stocks are going to be doing horrible. Should I be selling? Should I be buying other things? What should I do now that Trump's in office and executing whatever his plans are? So be be careful here and understand everything I'm about to say is my opinion and what I would do. I'm not giving specific advice to anybody. I'm going to try to be careful about my language, but if I say things like you should, understand it's what I'm saying I would do, and I'm not specifically telling anybody in particular to do something. Okay, so with with that disclaimer, and as we talk about retirees and their retirees, understand that if you've done what you should have done and what's wise, is you put a plan in place. You put an investment plan down, you put a withdrawal plan down, and you have some allocation of stocks and bonds and maybe real estate or commodities, whatever it is. And you've got some withdrawal plan that over a certain amount of time, maybe you're going to take 4 or 5 or 6% of that on an annual basis, something. You have a plan in place. And, the reason you set up a plan is so, you're on top of what you're doing and you can stay on top of what you're doing and you want to follow the plan. And I understand emotions get in the way. Even the best laid plans and the best ideas sometimes fall to emotion when a crisis hit, when COVID hit, or when the mortgage disaster hit in 2008, 2009. Sometimes emotion takes over and makes you do things that aren't the plan. So what I would stress here is I am trying to be calm about everything. Um, and when I set my plan in place, and when you look at the 4% rule, Bill Bengen, whatever rule you're following based upon, the history of returns in different markets, understand that markets, over the last 150 years have been through some very traumatic things. There's been the Depression, wars, recessions, COVID, the stock market crisis. You can name a dozen different things that caused huge swings in stock prices on the downward side, and they've always recovered. So, you can't say, okay, they've always recovered, they're always going to recover, but odds are, yes, in 10 years or 5 years or whatever period after a disaster to the market, the stock prices have recovered. So, those estimates on how much you should draw are based upon the fact that things are going to happen to the stock market and things are going to recover. And there's going to be things on the upside, irrational exuberance, prior to 2000, where, especially NASDAQ stocks just took off. And, eventually, I believe it was August 2000, it did what we call regression to the mean, and it brought stocks back down to what people at that time thought was a good valuation from a ridiculous valuation. So when stocks went really, really high, people tended to just keep buying, 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 buying. But if you had a plan in place and you just stayed invested and you just let things happen, yes, it hurt when they went down, but they came back. When S&P went down to, I think it was 666 back in 2009, and people panicked and sold and sold and sold and sold, they took off from there. They came back. So if you have time, and I stress that, if I have time, I am going to stay the course. I am not making any changes to what I'm doing. Nothing that's going to happen in the next 4 years is going to change what I'm doing. I hear things like, oh, The Trump administration is going to purposely crash the economy. They're going to do things that hurt people but are great for the economy. Stocks are going to take off because Trump loves business and lower tax rates and lower interest rates, and business is going to take off and stocks are going to take off. And you hear from the other side, oh, look at all the horrible things he's doing. There's going to be a lot of unemployment. There's not going to be anybody to fill those jobs. GDP is going to drop. The market's going to drop. Either one of those could be right, or 100 different scenarios in between. You're going to see a lot of online, whether it's YouTube or wherever else. People encourage you to buy gold or buy Bitcoin. Sell all your stocks, sell all your bonds, and buy these. And if you want to do that, certainly go ahead and do that. My message here today is ignore the noise to the greater extent. You can imagine all sorts of catastrophes, but we come back. Unless you have just a couple years left of money and, you don't want to see absolutely anything hurt it, maybe you should already been in cash anyway or in bonds. But if you are willing to take the risk and have, a 5, 10, 20, 30-year horizon out in front of you, and if something bad happens, it will be a speed bump. It will hurt. It will make you want to do things that you don't rationally want to do, but rather just emotionally want to do. And you have to try to ignore that. I have to try to ignore that. I'm going to ignore that. And this is why we keep a 2 to 3 year buffer of cash. So if stocks do drop by 20 or 30%, we don't have to sell them. We have cash to use until markets come back. It's why we keep bonds. If markets crash, sometimes bonds go up, and it helps buffer your loss until stocks come back. And I've said, I can't, and nobody else can tell you what's going to happen. The efficient market hypothesis is that at any time, any second, stocks have already priced in whatever they think is going to happen. So, whatever you think you're going to do to meet whatever you think is going to happen has already been priced into the market, and you're too late. Unless you know something none of us know. And if you do, let me know. If you know exactly what's going to happen, let me know. But seriously, people who are experts, go on to CNBC and you can hear all sorts of different opinions. Nobody knows. They do not know what's going to happen. You can say stocks are priced way too high right now. The price earnings ratios are way too high historically. But, people have been saying that for about a decade now. And I'm not saying they're not right, but we don't know when something will happen, and something will happen to lower those prices and lower those ratios, but they'll, in all likelihood, come back. So, my message here is stay the course, don't panic, stay with your plan. Let me know your comments though. What are you doing? What do you think will happen? And again, I didn't take a political stand here. And that's my point. No matter who's in office, something good or something bad is going to happen, depending upon your viewpoint, and stocks may react negatively or positively, but we don't know. So give me your comments. Please subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.